Alright guys, for today's video, I am going to highlight 10 tips and tricks, both like going from beginning to intermediate to advanced tips and tricks for TRYNDAMERE to advance you to the next level. Hey guys, this video is sponsored by Warspear Online. Warspear Online is a multi-platform pixel art MMORPG featuring a huge open world, tons of quests, and lots of guild adventures. The new lunar year brings epic monsters rising from the depths of the sea. But if the hope is still alive, raise your weapon against the ancient evil and protect Aranar. New quests, stunning locations, and bloodthirsty bosses are waiting for everyone. Register now for free and join the fight for Aranar, only in Warspear Online. So, the first thing I want to go over is all the walls that you can spin over. So we're going to go from like we're going to go over the difficult walls to spin over, because obviously if we go to like this wall, obviously we can spin over it. But if you go to a wall like this, if you're not in the perfect position, let me do this real quick, then we can actually face plant. So right here, for walls like this where it's kind of hard for you to go over, you have to be right up against the wall and then you can spin over. Same thing for here, really difficult wall to go over. You can't go directly into the bush on that wall specifically, because if you try to do that, if you try to go to the very corner here and try to spin to the bush, you'll faceplant every single time. Alright, you can spin over walls like this, walls like this, even on this side of the map. You can go directly from this wall all the way onto the wolf camp. Say you're jungling or just trying to clear a camp or something. Dragon wall, and probably the most important wall that you want to learn to spin onto is probably this one. So just going from here to here, and if you have a very perfect spin, you can spin directly into this bush, like at the very corner, like so. So these are the most important walls for you to learn to spin over. Number 2, Tiamat animation cancel with spin. So let's talk about this one. So we're going to go over a couple of easy animation cancels that you can add into your game right now that are going to make you more and more effective with Trynd. So the difference between a challenger TRYNDAMERE like myself, rank 1 Trynd, and you, is a lot of the little stuff that you probably don't even notice when you first watch me, or probably a lot of the other stuff like macro and whatnot, like strategy. But honestly, in terms of mechanics, there's not a lot to TRYNDAMERE besides a bunch of the little stuff that can add up to a lot. So let's go in and gold. Let's build team up.
When is the best time to roam to other lanes instead of pushing top?
Thank you, Jackal, for the sub. I appreciate it. So let's go over the I'll answer that question after this. So if you just use your spin, auto Tiamat like that, you could do that, or you could auto attack Tiamat spin. And you see how that, I was able to go into my spin much quicker. Basically, I didn't have to wait for the full Tiamat animation to go off. I was able to go instantly into spin. The same goes with W and spin, along with Tiamat. So let's go ahead and create a dummy real quick. So if I let me give myself a level. So imagine I spin onto my target and then a W to slow him. Obviously this isn't efficient because assuming this wasn't a dummy, while you're in the cast animation of your W, he could be walking away and getting a little bit further away from you, or whatever. But if you use W to spin, you'll actually cancel out a good portion of that W animation. So watch my character right here. So I didn't even go through the full swing of the W animation. So if I do it again, it probably goes through about 75 to 80%. So he does a full spin around. But if you do W to spin, it saves probably just a half second, or not a half second, but maybe a tenth or 2/10 of a second, just to make it a little bit more effective. And you're instantly, as soon as you get to your target, you're instantly able to auto attack as quickly as possible, rather than if you just spin and W. Third thing I want to go over is using your W to scout enemies in the fog of war. A lot of you guys who watch my stream or, you know, watch my YouTube videos like currently, you probably already know about this. But if there is an enemy that is invisible, like a Teemo, or an enemy in the fog of war, you see right now my W is not lit up. It's kind of, you know, dark. But, say, let's spawn enemy dummy in here. Lights up, right? So, if you don't see anybody around you, and you're walking up, and your W just suddenly lights up, you can infer, based off that information, that there is an enemy in the brush. So, let me just clear some of these minions. So you can use this for fog of war. In fact, I have a very set path. Whenever I'm splitting top lane, I have a very set path that I take. If you guys, like, this is something you probably don't notice when you watch my videos. When I'm split pushing, you know, whatever the case may be, and I'm walking, like, I'm spinning up to lane. So, let me just accelerate this a little bit with the spins. And I'm walking up to lane. I have a very set path I take. So first, I'll walk through here. If there, you know, just to check there's no one here. Then, I'll walk over to this wall. Check to see if anybody's over gromp. I stay here to see if anybody's in here. And then I'll walk up back to the center of the lane. I'll walk through here. Yeah, I check, you know, right here, obviously that dummy is still in there, so we can see that someone's in there. But I walk here, and with the new alcove, I actually walk kind of close to the wall so I can check to see if someone's back in the alcove. Now I walk back close to the center of the lane. Let's toggle turret fire real quick. Make them invincible as well. So, and when I walk through here, I stay towards the bottom so I can scout, see if anybody's over the wall. And you can stay in the fog, like, assuming this tower is gone, all the minions are gone. You can stay in the fog of war and check to see if someone is waiting for you in this brush. As you can see here, while still staying in the fog of war. Then I walk back to the center of the lane, stay in the center of the lane so I can check this brush here. When I'm taking turrets, here's a good ward, by the way. So if you place it over 50% over the wall, it will place the ward all the way over. And it's a very good ward for splitting as well. Also, I say here, like at the very corner, so I can use my W to scout, see if anyone's walking up through here. And yeah, that's basically it. And sometimes you'll see me, like, when, imagine I'm red side, and I'm looking to get a pick right here, and I don't have a ward. I'll look for a pick over the wall by using my W to scout to see when they walk up, and then I can spin. I can infer where their location is based off, you know, my W. Same thing, like I do Gromp, like say I'm blue side, I'm splitting up here, I take Gromp, and maybe I see their enemy ADC clearing the wave here, and they walk through. I could potentially get a pick here. Now, this is all what I consider easy stuff with TRYNDAMERE. This is just, game knowledge. Applying this game can be very simple. Just got to get into the muscle memory. Now I'm going to get into some of the harder difficulty, you know, tricks and tips I can give you. Well, I would say this is more intermediate. So let's go over the intermediate stuff. So let me talk a little bit about game mechanics for this one. So the attack damage and crit chance that you have. Let me just go ahead and build a couple of these. So the attack damage and crit chance that you have is determined before, right as your animation for your auto attack starts. So for example, I have 35% crit, right? 35% crit with full fury. And if I Q after my animation for my auto attack starts, I can still crit. What happened there? So I started the animation for my auto attack. I used my Q mid animation, which should set me to 0% crit because I have no crit in my items, right? But because the crit chance and the attack damage and attack speed and all of that is determined by the start of the attack animation, that is what still allowed me to crit. So a lot of the times when I'm building up Fury in lane. I'm building up Fury in lane, and I know I'm about to Q heal. What I'll do is I'll use my Q heal. Hold on, I didn't even do it there. I'll use my Q heal right as I'm about to finish my auto attack. That way, not only can I heal myself up, but I can regain some of the Fury I just lost instantly. So, really important mechanic to learn. Next thing. So, again, I considered that to be a little bit hard to add into your gameplay, like intermediate skill level, just because thinking about the situations where this can be applicable in terms of like regaining Fury, or maybe you're in a close fight, and you don't want to Q until the very last second that you need to Q. That way you can maintain as much crit chance and attack damage as possible. Like, sometimes that is the reason, that's the difference between you and me, in terms of why I win some duels and you don't. Because I can Q at the perfect time. Number 5, attack moving. So, if let's use the Scuttle Crab, for example, and sell a couple of these items so I don't instantly kill it. Let's use the Scuttle Crab, for example. So, right-clicking the Scuttle Crab. Right? And I've got a good amount of attack speed. Look at my character. Every time I auto, it's like I'm being, like, stunned, right? I got auto. He takes a second and then moves. What if I told you that you can go through 80% of your attack animation? You can go through about 80% of your attack animation before... So let's reset the game. You can go through 80% of your attack animation, and then you can move, and your attack will still go through. So there are a lot of mechanics in this game which work off of that concept, but your auto attack is one of them. So let's go, right from the get-go, let's spawn jungle camps, which I think should spawn Scuttle Crab, right? So right here, like, watch my movement when I just right-click it once. And look how slow I move in between auto attacks. But when we compare it to this, as soon as my auto attack goes through, in fact, even before my auto attack goes through, I'm already walking forward. Yeah, I have 100 MS because this is practice tool, even though I'm in NA. The MS can still be pretty high. We can use the target dummy as well instead of Scuttle Crab if you'd like to. And this is something that you can practice and adapt to your game just by using practice tool or playing against bots or whatever. Or just, applying it in game. But you see how I can go through about 80% of my attack animation and start moving before the attack even completes? That way I can stick onto my opponent just a little bit better. Just really, min-maxing the amount of damage I can do. So, this could be another difference between you and me, and in terms of like why I win some duels and why you don't. Alright, so let's talk about, one of the most, the one mechanic that basically everyone knows, spin flash. So, right here, if I can flash spin, right? I can flash spin, get into my target or whatever. But in that time, when like after my flash and I spin, my opponent has some kind of reaction time because it takes about a second to go from here to here and hit the dummy, right? But what I can do instead, I can spin, then flash on my target, and you see how it still dealt damage? Let me do it onto the Scuttle Crab to better show you. So it still dealt the spin damage, right? So to add on top of that, why I consider this to be an intermediate difficulty ability to do is because you actually, to do the spin flash mechanic perfectly, and to guarantee that you'll get an auto attack after you use your spin flash, you need to not only spin and then flash on your target, but you need to right click your target before you flash on them to guarantee the auto attack. Let's say, for example, I spin flash and then right click. Like that. One, my auto attack does not start immediately. If I spin, right click my target and then flash, my auto attack starts immediately. Which means when my auto attack starts, that even if my opponent tries to flash away, that like they try to react to my flash by flashing away like 0.25 seconds after, my auto attack will still go through. However, if I spin flash and then right click, my opponent, I did the spin right click then flash right there just out of habit, but if I spin flash right click, your opponent can actually flash away from your auto before it gets to the point where it can complete, and then it can actually get away from your auto attack damage. So that's why I consider it to be a little bit harder. Now let's talk about okay, next thing we're going to talk about is auto attack and spinning without taking a turret shot. So let's go ahead and shove this wave in. So timing the turret shots, I mean, a lot of the times it isn't really important because taking one turret shot on trend is like not a big deal. But if you do want to time the turret shots, say like it's kind of like if you take a turret shot, it could be bad for you as far as trade. You can time it perfectly so that you can auto attack and spin out of a turret shot without taking a turret. So I'm just trying to shove this wave in as quickly as possible so I can show you. Alright, so let's put a target dummy right here. So, like, just take a look at the turret shot. As soon as it releases, you see how I can auto attack and spin out without taking a turret shot? Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about, so right there, I auto attacked and I animation canceled into my spin perfectly. So let's go a little bit more in depth into that. So the next mechanic I'm going to talk about is hard difficulty. I don't even get it perfectly every time, and I've played thousands of games of TRYNDAMERE. So we're gonna be talking about the perfect auto attack spin, and I'm gonna use a sheen to demonstrate it. So, you know how I was talking about earlier, how you can go through 80% of an animation and then cancel it like with another. With TRYNDAMERE, I can use an auto attack and go into my spin before my auto attack completes. And if I do it perfectly, I auto attack first, and then I spin, and the auto attack will actually deal damage at the same time as spin, and in correlation with a sheen effect, like with TRYNDAMERE, we build into Trinity Force currently as part of our main build. We can actually get our damage off just that much faster. So let's let me go and check this again. I don't get this perfectly 100% of the time. So what I'm going to show you right here is the wrong what it looks like if you do it wrong. So take a look at the sheen effect on my status bar when it happens. So I'm going to auto attack and then spin. You see how the sheen effect is on the status bar right now? That means that the sheen effect did not apply to the dummy. However, if I get this perfectly, which again, it's not 100% replication rate. However, if you can get it perfectly, like a high percentage amount of the time, in which I will admit it's easier to do once you get more attack speed. I'm going to show it with no attack speed here. Look at that. No sheen on the status bar. You also notice that on the target dummy, it showed up as a 132. It showed up as one damage tick. It was all together. It was all one source of damage. So when your opponent looks at their death recap, it will look like assuming they died, it will look like they died to a 132 damage spin. Yeah, cool facts. So your auto attack, your sheen effect, and your spin, it's all combined into one in terms of like how it's dealt out. So again, this is extremely hard. If you do this in a practice tool and you've never done it before, I guarantee you're probably going to fail 100% of the time until you really get down. However, I will stress that learning to auto-attack and spin perfectly is essential for Tryndamere gameplay, not only to dodge turret shots, but just to get your damage off as quickly as possible, because sometimes you get those like all-in situations where you and your opponent are both like 15% HP, and you can your auto-attack and spin off perfectly is going to win you the duel. A duel that I would win, but maybe you won't. So, add this to your gameplay. Learn. Alright, so this next mechanic is the one that you probably don't know about. So, even like Tryndamere players who've played hundreds and hundreds of games won't know about this. It's pretty obvious that, like, you know, I could use W and flash here, right? Watch this. So I can W, and before my animation for my W even goes off, I can flash, right? So right now, this little Teemo target dummy is facing towards me. But what you probably don't know, and the reason why this is in the hard difficulty of tips and tricks, I'll explain in a second. But what you probably don't know is that your W, your mocking shout, it's going to release after the flash. So in this case, I actually flashed twice, so I probably messed it up. But right there. So even though I was in front of the Teemo, like he was looking directly at me, when I first started my W, it depends on when your W finishes whether your target gets slowed or not. So I'm going to explain to you is, like, I have used this mechanic one time in my past 1,000 games. And I used it against a Riven player to disengage. So, let me explain the situation. Let me toggle minion spawn. Let me get rid of these things. Let me explain the one situation that I have used this. So, I wish I had a clip of it on me. But I was in this spot. Riven was coming at me right here. And I'm just going to spawn the Riven dummy right here. She was coming around me right here. She was trying to cut me off between me and my escape path, right? And it's going to be really hard for me to I didn't have my spin up. And I couldn't just flash to my turret because she could just get away from me, right? So she queued towards here. And what I did, I W flashed. And I was able to get away because, like, even though she could just, like, you know, like, she was facing towards me, because I flashed behind her, I was actually able to get enough to separate the gap to get away. That is the one time, and I'm pretty sure, like, I don't even know if it panned out perfectly, because I think I got ganked by the jungler or something. Like, I just end up flashing into the enemy jungler or something. But, like, that's just like, one example of the way you can do that, and is, kind of like a secret trick that, like, probably like 99.9% of you probably didn't know, unless you just happen to run into this situation. But a more common trick, which I consider to be fairly difficult, is the last trick I'm going to explain on this video, and that is walking back into a turret shot right before your ultimate is about to run out. So, let's go over this. So, we're dying to a turret shot here, right? And right before... Hold on. I need to set this up correctly because, like, obviously, like, any game it'd be a little bit different. Let me, can I regen real quick? Yeah, okay. Alright. So, let me set this up perfectly so I can... So, imagine I'm diving an opponent. I kill him. So right before my ultimate ran out here, I ran back into the turret shot so that my ultimate would, like, so that, so if I just kept running there, my ultimate would have run out and the turret shot would have killed me. So what I did was I ran back into the turret shot so I would take the damage faster while my ultimate was still active and then I end up living. And then I would just like queue after. The reason why this mechanic is important is because the only way that you can live... So let me go up to level 9. Let me show you exactly what I mean. So the only way you can live... Let me just get team out too. So let's imagine at full fury, right? So at full fury, the only way that you can live the last turret shot is if you get triumph plus your Q. So just your Q by itself will not save you. However, if you have triumph plus your Q, that would save you. So the reason why it's good to learn that mechanic with like walking back to the last turret shot is because if you kill your opponent pretty early on and your triumph heal heals you before that last turret shot comes out, then you won't be able to live unless you just are able to time it perfectly where you walk back into a turret shot before your ultimate runs out. Anyways, I hope you guys all learned at least one thing from this video, and I hope it takes you to the next level. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment down below if I missed what you think might be an important TRYNDAMERE mechanic. I did not talk about right-clicking, so that is a very good important TRYNDAMERE mechanic, for example. But let me know if I missed anything else in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this kind of content, make sure you like the video and subscribe. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys all later.